Absolutely. Okay. All right. Good evening. Thank you for joining us for the governing board meeting of Ramona Unified School District. I'm calling the meeting to order. Please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. Ready? Begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. All right. We did have we have a full board tonight. We did have some action taken in closed session. Is there a readout from that?
In closed session today, by motion of member Dan Summers, seconded by member Roger Hill, the board approved the expulsion of student number 22-04 through May 18th, 2024.
Thank you very much. All right, if you're following along in your agenda, we are now on item C4, and that's instructions for addressing the governing board. Roger.
The Ramona Unified School District welcomes your participation at the district school board meetings. Your participation assures us of continuing community interest in our schools. To assist you in the ease of participating in our meetings, the following guidelines are provided. Orange request to be heard cards are available to all audience members who wish to speak on any agenda item and or under the category of item E, public comment. These presentations are limited to 3 minutes per person or 15 minutes per item. Submit completed orange cards to the board's recording secretary in advance of the item presentation. Orange request to be heard cards will not be accepted once the item has commenced. Speakers are asked to direct all comments to members of the board. All participants are asked to be respectful to other speakers when they are addressing the board. Public comment is set aside for members of the audience to raise issues that are not specifically on the agenda. These presentations are limited to 3 minutes per person or 15 minutes per item. Public comments may be submitted online at the link listed at the top of the agenda. Please note that electronically submitted comments will be printed and distributed to board members and will not be read aloud during the meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, Roger. So if you'd like to address the board, the orange cards are back there by the door. All right, we are now on item C5, and that's approval of the agenda. It is an action item.
Move approval.
Thank you, Darren.
I'll second it.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
That motion passes unanimously. We are now on item C6. That's approval of the consent calendar.
Approval.
Thank you.
Hold second.
All in favor?
Aye.
That motion passes unanimously. And with that, we did have some personnel hirees on this. Would you like to make an introduction of those individuals that are here tonight?
Yes, thank you very much. So first we have Mr. Chris Rogers in the back here, the new principal for Hanson Elementary. So congratulations. Thank you for being here. Would you like to introduce your family? Would you like to introduce your family that came with you?
This right here, my family, I have my wife, my son Elijah, my wife Ellie, my son Elijah, and my father Al Rogers, who's at
Excellent.
Right, welcome
Thank
everybody.
you.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Rogers. And then we also have Mr. Efren Pantaleon. Glad you're here. Thank you very much. Congratulations again. Assistant principal at Olive Pierce Middle School. So you could please introduce your family first. Thank you, Efren.
Austin Pantaleon, my wife Renee,
Welcome.
Welcome.
Thank you for coming in
Thank you
tonight.
all.
And welcome to Ramona Unified. Excellent. Excellent. Looks like we're shaping up to have a good year at those schools. Very nice. All right, we are now in section D, recognitions and presentations, and D1 is recognition of retirees.
Members of the board, if I could invite Michelle Fezzi, doing it here at the Palm Lawn, CSEA president. As you know, we recognized some retirees at our last school board meeting, but since then we've had some more come in, and Michelle is one of those who has decided that she is going to retire from being a mountain lion, and this is just a few words about Michelle. Michelle has worked at Mount Woodson Elementary for 19 years as the administrative assistant for. Michelle is the radar of Mount Woodson, always able to procure things out of thin air. Michelle has been so valuable to the staff in so many ways: organization, celebrations, compliance, cotton candy skills,
Ooh.
and so much more in the running of this school. Through the years, it is her compassion during hard times that has been appreciated. I have watched her work with our kiddos to make them feel special and loved. Her creativity and green thumb have been a blessing also. Michelle has been such a force at the front office. She is always there to help families and staff get all they need. Her presence will be missed, and honestly, I cannot imagine Mount Woodson without Michelle.
Aw.
So congratulations on your retirement. We appreciate all of your service and everything that you've given to our students. I myself have had 4 students go through there, and I echo everything.
Oh, yes. Yes, absolutely.
If you don't
All
mind,
right.
Ms. Bowman, the board would like to congratulate you.
Yes. You will be so missed.
Would you like to give you this or thank you as well as
Thank you so much. Thank you for coming.
Members of the board, in addition to Michelle, we do have other staff who can be with us tonight. We just want to recognize them. Other classified staff: Kathy Funk, will be retiring. The certificated staff: Victoria Barlow, Paul Gabriel, Liz Brandquist, Kathy Harrington, John Rodriguez, Carol Canfield, Sue Johnson,
Yeah.
and Randy Schimm. And total, all of these employees have provided 266 years of service to our
Amazing.
students in Vermont.
Wow. Wow. There's some big names there. Some big names there.
Big names.
Thank you, Tony. All right, item D2, and that's report from CSEA. Do we have anyone here tonight? Oh, okay, great. That's right, you stopped me just in time. Excellent, thank you. Welcome.
Thank you very much. Thank you, members of the board. CSA 733 would like to belatedly thank the cabinet and the board for its record-setting efficiency of the 2022 and 2023 reopener negotiations. One day and done. Couldn't be better than that. Thank you very much. Food services also set records for meals served per labor hour this year, with RHS and OPMS serving an average of 20 meals per hour and the elementary kitchen serving an average of almost 40 meals per hour. Pretty impressive. The OP Kitchen would like to send a big thank you out to the maintenance and operations staff members, Dave, Justin, and Bobby V, for their work of installing a PA system, a peephole in the kitchen door, and changing out a light switch in the PAC so students won't be able to turn out the lights during meal service anymore. Very appreciated. Tech Services has completed deployment of 500 Chromebooks for next year's freshman class. The custodial department has already begun their summer deep cleaning for next school year. And CSA would like to congratulate and thank Kathy Funk and Michelle Fezzi for their many years of service to Vermont. Thank you very much.
Very nice. Thank you for coming in this evening. We are now on item D3, and that's a report from RTA. Okay. Can you do it improv?
I have no idea what you would send me. Maybe not.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Yes.
We are now on section E, and that's public comment. Do we have any comment cards tonight on items not on the agenda? We do not. Moving to section F, education services. Our first item to address is item 4, presentation of the RUSD strategic plan for the arts.
Good evening, board members. On November 8, 2022, California voters approved Proposition 28. With the approval of this proposition, there is continuing ongoing funding for the arts in the education world. What this means for Ramona Unified is that first, we have to develop a district-wide arts plan that our school sites will be able to use in the planning of each of their individual school plans for the arts. This plan will roll out for the district in 23-24, and then school sites will start developing their own plan in 23-24 for implementation in 24-25. This particular funding source goes straight to the school sites, and it is based on ADA, so it's based on our student enrollment and unduplicated count students at each school. 80% of those funds need to be used on staffing at a minimum. So tonight, as a part of this arts plan, we have Susie O, Coordinator of Curriculum and Technology, here to kind of dig in and share with you all of the work that that arts committee has accomplished in this year.
Very good. Thank you. Welcome.
Thank you. Well, good evening. Good evening, board members. I'm here tonight to share about the wonderful work that our Arts Committee was able to work on in this past school year. But before I dive in, I just wanted to share that the Arts Committee is something that was really personal for me. So I grew up in the music world. I started at a very young age playing the piano. And after having a piano foundation, I was able to pick up the violin and play in school orchestra. So I played starting in middle school all the way through the end of high school. And it gave me such a great appreciation and great experience being a part of that. I still remember my first piano competition where I played a song and it was like 20 pages long. And you would think as a fourth grader that would be a difficult task, it would be a difficult challenge. And it was, but it came so easily, and it even surprised me and shocked me how well, when you know the music, that you can play from your heart. Now at the same time, like I would struggle memorizing 20 vocab words for the end of the week quiz, right? But yet, piano was something I could do, something I could play, that I can do well. I actually ended up placing first in that competition. So I think that when I think about the arts, it's so powerful, right? It encourages us to be critical thinkers. It allows us to express ourselves in different ways that we normally may not. So I think that arts being so powerful, that's what really drew people to our arts committee. The arts committee this year was formed with teachers, students, administrators, parents, and County Office of Education representative. Now the 14 members that met, first of all, were super committed to our arts committee, but they really gave themselves to really look at the arts and think about how we want to develop our arts plan here in RUSD. So during our 4 all-day meetings, we were able to come up with our mission and vision and look at all the California state standards, look at all the requirements, and figure out what that means for us in our plan. So if you look at the vision statement here, it says that the vision for our RUSD Arts Committee is that we want students, that all RUSD students will develop skills in and appreciation for the arts. And in our mission statement below that, you'll see that we want RUSD students to become artistically literate. We want to provide high quality instruction, and we want there to be opportunities for students to express themselves. So you'll notice that there are 5 focus areas. If you could actually go to the next slide, thank you. You'll notice that these 5 focus areas are infused and weaved throughout our 3-year plan.
So in the 23-24 school year, we are going to develop a arts plan, or begin thinking about our arts plan, but giving staff the opportunity to kind of tinker, so to explore and experiment with the arts. So giving them arts pedagogy in our current curriculum, trying to integrate some of that arts and providing students again the opportunity to what that might mean in projects that students may have more right now. In the 24-25 year, school sites will finalize the first plan. They'll have a story evaluate their current resources and think about the looking at their learning environment, making sure that there's a learning environment that's and they'll also pick out community partnerships and looking at our community, looking at some of our artists and musicians that are available. And then in the 25-26 school year, we will not only implement the plan, but make sure that it's being supported. So like capital proposition, that means that funding will be allocated to all our ways so that we can have a successful arts program. So our goal is that we want students to graduate with an experience with their talent. So not only will the arts support that for the existing curriculum standards, but it will also we want arts to be that pathway, that avenue, that students and freedom, that they can think critically, communicate, and collaborate with one another. So just like I was given the opportunity in school to have arts, for students, our goal is that our students here will have that same opportunity. And we develop their abilities and skills.
Okay, very nice. So this is an information piece and we can ask questions. Do we have any questions about the plan? Yes, Darren.
What is the anticipated funding amount for this program based on Prop 28?
It's about, currently, we have some estimates sitting around $770,000 per year. It's different for every school site because it's based on that particular school's enrollment and that particular school's unduplicated count. And so it doesn't come to the district level, it goes kind of straight to the sites.
Really?
It's an equitable component of the budget. And so based on that, we have the admin, like I think it's 1% that we're allowed to hold back on the
Right.
admin side, but it is directly to the school sites and has to be used in that manner. And they do student needs assessments and plan and develop a plan with their community on what their students need and what their students want on their particular school site. So obviously if a school has a greater enrollment or a higher unduplicated count, they're receiving more funding than a school that has lower unduplicated or lower enrollment.
Okay, so if the money goes directly to the school site, what prevents the district from saying, okay, well, now that 80% of that is for employees, that we just say, okay, that's going to cover that and we don't use any money here? What's preventing that from happening?
So there's a supplanting clause. So for example, we have Mr. Wiseman at elementary school and we already have his position funded in another way. We cannot take those dollars and now pay for his position or Abby Weaver's or any of those other positions that we currently have. We can't take this money and use it to pay for them. This is in addition to. It's a requirement of the funding that it has to grow our arts program, not supplant it.
Okay, and then The other question that I have, again, this is all about the money. Because 80% of it is for employees, I mean, that could be hiring a new teacher, hiring an aide, could be a variety of things, hiring an assistant. But what if the greatest need is not for any of that? What if the need is for technology? It could be consumables. What if that's the greatest need? Can we request? Can't be that way.
No, we can go more than 80% towards staffing, but we can't go any less than 80% of the funding we receive towards staffing. The remaining 20% is for any supplies, materials, technology, any of those pieces.
So the way the grant works is, the incentive is to grow it, but then not fully fund it in the end, because it won't be fully funded if we go ahead and hire additional teachers. Now we got to fund all the consumables, all that kind of stuff. We have to pay for everything that goes with it.
I think that's that consideration for that additional 20%. But I will say that each school site doesn't necessarily, based on enrollment and unduplicated count, doesn't equal one FTE. So not one-time full-time equivalent teacher. One school site may have a $60,000 pot, and another school site might have an $80,000 pot. Ramona High School has over $200,000. So there's going to be a lot of conversation. That's why we didn't rush into implementing in 23-24, which we could have. We're going to bank the 23-24 money that we've been given to help fund moving forward into 24-25 and develop strong plans at the school site. Otherwise, we'd be trying to rush a plan in May and June for every school site and do all of those pieces. We're going to kind of be more strategic about this and really thoughtful in how we can get the most bang for our buck, personnel wise and supplies wise, and all of those pieces.
So the money that we're getting this next fiscal year, we don't have to spend it.
They made an allowance in the last probably 3 months, where originally we were going to have to spend it in 23-24, but because things were so uncertain as far as how much funding we were going to receive and what that might look like with the May revise and all of those pieces, because it's a percentage of a total dollar value, right, at the state. And so as a result of that, they extended the required rollout by 1 year. So we do not have to roll it out in 23-24, and actually recommended that we don't, for a couple of reasons. The state of California is actually anticipating a shortage in teachers by about 10,000 teachers as a result of this funding. And so we're doing a lot of things on our back end to market to our teachers. If you have this number of units in this area, you might qualify for this type of art education or art credential or something like that, so that we can help grow in-house also. And in addition to recruiting and trying to do all those pieces as well, but it's going to be a struggle to hire.
Darren's.
It's going to be a struggle to hire because every district in the state of California will be trying to hire for the arts.
So I have one more that goes with it, because what you just said.
Sure.
So if you have, just for credentialing and for the way this money works, if you have a teacher that can teach, say they're teaching, I don't know, we'll say teaching math, and they have this, they have a minor or another credential to teach art, is that possible where they can teach two different things? Will this money apply to that with their credential being split like that? And then also, what if they're in a classroom, say, I don't know, say they're teaching engineering, and then we want to offer an art classroom there, but it's already being supported and funded by CTE. Can we use money for the art section that's in the same class taught by the same teacher?
No.
I didn't think so, but that's why I'm asking these, because
no,
I
it's
want to
good.
have a clear picture in my mind, what is allowed, what is not allowed.
No supplanting, and they're very, very clear on the no supplanting clause.
Got it.
So there's that piece. And as far as the credentialing goes, if they have the number of units for local assignment, we can. Yeah. They
Thank
can.
you.
Yes.
You answered it well.
Very good.
Of course.
Darren, were you finished? I know we moved on a little bit
Nope, I'm good.
quickly. Okay. Dan.
Well, I think I had an incorrect assumption, and you can confirm that for me. I assumed that we already had an art teaching staff in place, and that this $700,000 was going to come and be a benefit to all those programs, buying musical instruments, oils, canvas, all those things. But that's where the $700,000 was going to go, because we already had the art teachers. And that apparently is an incorrect assumption.
Well, we do have some art teachers at secondary. We do not have art teachers at elementary. We have one music teacher currently that it will continue at elementary, and we have music teachers, and the arts is more than just like art. We can do media arts, we can do digital arts, we can do performing arts, we can do all of those types of arts in addition to that traditional visual arts, performing arts. And so we do have some, but this money can't, like, for lack of a better way of describing it, backfill those positions, right? We can't use this money to pay for those, nor can we use the total amount of this money just to pay for materials for those teachers, because a part of the legislation that the voters passed, right, it was what we have to do what was on the ballot and what was approved by the voters, and that was 80% of it would be used to increase the art program, increase staffing. And so we have to adhere to that for this amount of money.
Got it. Thanks for the clarification.
No problem.
Okay, so if we wanted to bring back an elementary visual arts teacher, because we already have band, we could do that with this money.
We could do that if that's what the school site surveys and needs assessments demonstrated at the school site, what they need and what they want, because it's a school site planned and the school site community. So parents will be involved in this process at the school sites, and if that was what it was, then that is where we would head.
I just wanted to clarify, since we've had that position in the past, that's a long time ago.
Yes. Yeah.
And now we don't have it anymore. I just wanted to make sure that the money could be used for something that we had paid for, but don't
Yes.
have.
Yeah, and another part of rolling it out a little bit slower is when we think about secondary and the need for courses of study. You know, we do have some archived or older courses of study we could bring back that we don't have those courses any longer, but there also is opportunity for us to think about arts in new, modern ways, and what kind of course of study might we need to develop moving forward in order to launch another program. In our community, with what students would be interested in and increase engagement and all of those pieces.
I do have one clarifying question. You said we have a music teacher
At elementary.
At elementary. That's for all of our elementary schools, and they go from site to site to site.
Correct.
It's not enough.
Yeah, right?
Yes. This year
this
we
is
had
welcome
two.
funding.
Yeah, this year we
Rolling
did have
Stone.
two, but we had temporary funding that helped support that second music teacher. And with the May revise, that funding was cut by 52%. And so that position was eliminated. However, the good news is Prop 28 will create that possibility again at the school sites.
One last closing comment. I think you missed a real opportunity to come in here and maybe play the violin for us during your presentation. Just saying
Perhaps
that,
another time.
that might have driven
I'd
it
be happy
home a
to.
little better for
A
us.
musical report. It wouldn't be the first time we did have that
Really?
once before.
I actually
with a
did think
musical
about
report.
it, but if I had a little bit more time to prepare,
Okay.
I will try next time.
Leslie, can we work on that?
Yes, we will. We'll work with Susie. We'll work on that.
Okay. Dan,
And maybe then.
Yeah, I would like the
do
board to
drums.
recognize Susie O and all the hours and the days that she's put in, putting together this program for our school district. Thank you, Susie O.
Thank you so much.
Not quite finished. Maya, did you have anything with this? I do. So I know that there's been some questions here about that 80% for staffing. Right? But that's actually less than what we typically pay percentage-wise of our budget for staffing. So right now, district-wide, I don't know the exact percentage, but historically it's 85 to 88 or 89% of our budget is employee compensation. So that 80%, while that sounds like a lot towards staffing, it's not. The remaining 20% for other materials and items is generous.
You should really hear the conversations at the elementary principal meeting, and they're like, okay, we have 60,000, you have 70,000, we can put that together, and a
Right.
teacher can split between two schools instead of,
Absolutely.
you know, there's a lot of creative juices
good.
flowing.
Good.
And so again, just another reason to
I
be
hope
more
that's how it
strategic
works.
and thoughtful in how we roll this out,
Very
so that
good.
we can maximize the money that we've been given.
Yeah, I'm glad to hear that, because the site by site doesn't necessarily create a comprehensive vision for an art program in the district. So
Yeah.
I'm glad to hear that there's some collaboration going on.
Absolutely.
In the planning process. What is the board's role in this as time moves forward?
So tonight, your role is actually just to approve the RUSD plan for the arts. So this is an action item tonight. And
It's information.
oh, just kidding. It's information item.
Right?
It doesn't have to be.
That's my
board
question.
Yeah, no,
That's our
it doesn't.
role.
It's not a. It doesn't have to be a board
Okay.
approved item. We will bring back to you after schools have approved their individual school site plans with their school site council. We'll bring it back to the
Okay.
board. As far as it being, I think that is also just an information item, but we'll look into that more just to firm that up.
And then just to piggyback on
Yep.
that, when I was talking about there's going to be consumables or technology or whatever, and I just want to give a scenario, kind of what I think our role might be, which will have to be creative with finance, is that if we decide at the high school we want something that's more up to date, say we want to bring in computer graphics, we've never had that. We're going to need computers that can do computer graphics. Say we want at the middle school to have much, more computers for the digital media videography classes, then we're going to have to somehow come up with that money. So that's why I was bringing that up, because this is obviously not funding the whole thing, and
Right.
we need to start thinking about that.
So does this have to do these programs have to happen during the regular school year? It can't be a summer program, art and music camps, that kind of thing? Okay. All right, thank you very much. That is the end of my questions.
I just want to commend our staff on looking into this and addressing it early on when we discovered the supplanting issue, specifically Ed Services, in conjunction with admin services, but really put the brakes on to really take a really good look and plan this out very thoughtfully, early on, earlier than most districts. And so I just appreciate the whole team working together, also working with HR on some possible including our own staff
Right.
aspects of credentialing. So
Very
just
good.
an amazing job, and I appreciate every
And
single one.
I've already heard what Poway is doing. They're going to hire assistants, instructional aides, that can assist in all the art rooms. So I think it's kind of an interesting way of doing it.
Okay, well, thank you very much. Thank you for the report and for spending your time with us this evening.
Thank you.
All right, we are now on item 5, which is the presentation on a pilot of instructional materials for welding.
The materials you see here listed in the agenda, welding skills fifth edition, are just being brought forth as a proposed pilot from August 2023 to May 2024. The materials have been reviewed by the school site administrator and the welding teacher at Ramona High School, and we're just letting you know that we're going to start the pilot.
Okay, very good. Thank you. Who was our welding teacher at Ramona High School? Okay, very good. Thank you. This is information only. Do we have any questions before moving on?
There's nothing controversial in that book. Just like, basically the controversy is, do you do MIG or do you do TIG?
Right. Okay, moving on. The next item is presentation on changes to the transitional kindergarten TK program.
Board members, after reviewing feedback from Ramona community, parents, teachers, administrators, will be making some adjustments to the RUSD transitional kindergarten school day. Currently, our transitional kindergarten students attend a full day with the rest of the K through 6th grade students. What we will be transitioning to in the 23-24 school year is a 4-hour instructional day, where students then have the
just it's okay to charge some and then not the others that are being fully funded. That's unique.
For Mini Thrive, the TK
Yeah.
program, it will be free to all because it's still during that regular school day.
Okay.
So we won't be charging for that 2-hour window.
Oh, okay.
Yes,
Okay.
that will be free for all. There would be that wouldn't be fair, right? If we're
Right.
going to charge for that 2-hour window and say, we're gonna shorten our school day and now you need to pay more.
It was a little unclear on the handout about that. Yeah, no, that's great.
Free, that
Right.
2-hour window is
Okay.
free. If then they register for Thrive, which is after school, unduplicated students would be free. And the students who are not unduplicated would be $150 a month per student.
You might want to call it like Thrive Plus and Thrive.
I think they're calling it Mini Thrive.
Have a distinct.
Mini
oh,
Thrive.
Mini.
Thrive is the
Okay.
yeah.
And then Thrive. for
Right.
Okay.
Gotcha.
Got it.
Gotcha. Okay.
I get it now.
All right.
And
Very
we've
good.
had some incredible feedback in our
Okay.
community survey and from parents, even from parents who don't have TKers currently or even next year, because we asked for birthdays. And so we really had quite a few today and just kind of tell us how excited they were at the option of being able to pick up their students and only have that 4-hour window. When we start to have those 3-year-olds enter the classroom in a couple of years, and they will be 3-year-olds for a few weeks, it becomes a very long, very long day for that 6-hour class.
Yeah.
So, at what point do we bring those 3-year-olds in? Do we need to wait? Yeah.
There we go.
Do we need to wait on those, or can we speed that process along? Is the funding not implemented until a certain year?
Nope, we absolutely could speed it up, but we're choosing strategically not to. There's a lot of reasons for that. We have that mentality of let's go slow to go fast. Let's make sure our program is solid. Let's make sure, one, our TK program is solid and developmentally ready for all of these kids. It's new for teachers, it's new for CSOs, it's new for our lunch crews, it's new for everybody. And so really being thoughtful as we roll this out to ensure that we have the safest program, most supportive program for our students, rather than trying to rush a big group of students who are even younger and were not yet equipped. There's a lot of things that come with TK students, including toileting, right? We're having to change job descriptions. We're doing a lot of different things in order to meet those needs. There's so much to consider when you go younger and younger, and so that rollout really has to be strategic and thoughtful, especially with facilities and support staff and all of those pieces. So while technically we could rush it,
Right.
we're choosing not to rush it so that we can provide the most developmentally appropriate and safe environment possible.
So, do we have dedicated TK classes at every elementary school now?
We will in the 23-24 school year. So this school year we had TKK combos, and moving into next year, district leadership has made the conscious decision that we will no longer have a TKK combo. We will adhere to the class size ratios of 12 to 1 in TK. Mini Thrive, anytime there's a TK in Thrive in the after school program, their ratio is actually more stringent. It's 10 to 1.
Okay.
And so we will be only running TK classrooms. And I would invite you to come visit these TK classrooms because it is magic. When you see these TKers in the grocery store and they're adding up all of their things and they're shopping and they're making their shopping list and it's play-based, but there's so much planning and writing and thought and communication coming through. It's really, really exciting to see what's happening with self-regulation and critical thinking and all of those pieces.
So, will we have enough TK students at every single elementary school site, or are we thinking that we may need to have kids go to a different school site than where they will proceed in kindergarten and beyond?
Nope, as of right now, we have enough.
We have enough?
Mhm.
Okay, very good.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
How are the facilities for TK?
Depending on the school site, the facilities are adequate.
Okay.
I wouldn't say they're stellar. And we do have some sites where there's no bathroom in the classroom, and that is a really big challenge.
It
and
is.
so we're hearing that from teachers and administrators and trying to get creative or figure out some solutions. but it is definitely a challenge that we're going to face in just thinking about when you have a TK student walk from a classroom all the way to a restroom across campus, and do you send the aide with them and then there's only one person in the classroom, or how do we balance all of that? And so just really needing to think about facilities in that way.
Yeah. So I imagine that'll be something that the board needs to address at some point.
That would be wonderful.
Okay. Anybody else have questions about this? I know I'm especially interested as we've
It's
got
actually a really exciting
a posse of 2-year-olds in the
Yes.
family right now.
right?
That's
It's a really
because-
exciting
Like,
opportunity.
can't you take them when they're 3? Come on, Leslie.
That's because Dawn's a grandma.
Yes, many times over. But yeah.
Me too.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you very much. I appreciate the report. Okay. Item 7 is report of information on the LCAP.
Yes, governing board. Each year, school districts are required to develop the local control and accountability plan and share with all educational partners the district's goals and how they intend to meet these goals. And so, as you know, I've been updating you each month on the process with our educational partners, and that plan has been fully developed. And so thank you. As we go through our slides, we continue to have our broad goals, the 5 goals that you see in the presentation. We have one that's focused on academics, one that is focused on special education as a requirement of being in differentiated assistance. Our special education community is one of our most at-risk communities, and as a result, we have a requirement to have a goal that is directly related to that group. Our 3rd goal is about more of that social emotional learning, positive behavior supports, all of those pieces. Our 4th goal has to do with family connection, and that 5th goal is all about our facilities and well-maintained and safe and clean facilities. As we go through a lot of our LCAP this year is very similar to last year, to be honest. We saw a lot of the same things bubble to the surface, which makes sense because you cannot accomplish all of your actions and services in that 9-month span that you're developing your LCAP. And so you'll see we broke out goal 1 as with each of the different subgroups and how we're addressing those subgroups throughout the plan in this particular slide. You'll see some focused areas on math, and as you've heard, the data previous to this school year was starting to show a little bit of an increase, and we will have some good news coming soon about that also. And just getting back to some instructional leadership pieces, you see that as well. I'm looking, and we have that universal transitional kindergarten, and the need to start really focusing in on our English learners. Talking about English language development, both designated and integrated, is another huge area that we need to be focusing on. And one exciting thing we are launching next school year is ELD training for both classified and certificated staff. And so that hasn't happened before, and so we're really excited to launch that.
What's the secondary TOSA? It's on there.
At secondary TOSAs at both OPMS, we have a TOSA, 40% math TOSA. So for 2 periods of one of our math teachers' day, they're going to be working on coaching and supporting their teammates. They are actually attending an intervention workshop in this month, we're in June, at the end of this month. So in order to help coach the intervention teacher in math practices and to help build up that intervention program at the middle school level. In addition, at the high school, we also have some TOSAs who have either release periods or are supporting through supervision or bar or different things like that.
Okay.
Goal 2 is our special education goal, and this is all about shoring up that communication between general education and our students, our specialized academic instructors, and really kind of focusing in the upcoming years on supporting our teachers with what does co-teaching look like. When you walk into a classroom where there's a special education teacher and a general education teacher working together in a classroom, you really shouldn't be able to tell who is the general education teacher and who is the special education teacher. You know you have a true co-teaching model when that is what the classroom looks like. That is not easy. when teachers like to be the chief of their classroom. And so it takes a lot of relationship building, a lot of trust, and a lot of experience to do that. But that is one of the areas where we're really going to kind of lean into a little bit. Goal 3, positive and supportive learning environments. We're going to continue looking at PBIS, positive behavior supports, increased social emotional learning programs. We have really done incredible work this year with our multi-tiered system of support, or our MTSS committee. They have done some phenomenal work so far, and we're going to continue that into next school year. And really start focusing in on what interventions can we put in place for students when it comes to attendance, behavior, and academics also, but really focusing in on that social emotional side and really hitting in on our attendance. We have some great surveys out right now, and we're actually getting ready to hand call every family who had a student who was chronically absent in order to kind of see how might we support you next year in order to have your child here more often. We felt like after the school year ended, it would feel like more of a safe phone call rather than a punitive phone call. And so our staff is going to be working on making those calls to see how we might support families in that way also.
How many families is that?
I just looked at the list right before we came in here. I want to say there's, on the list of who we're going to call that are left for next year, maybe, oh, Susie's not in here because she's on that list too. I was going to get her verification, but I want to say about 25 families we're going to call.
Okay.
And just kind of see how we might support them.
Okay,
there might
good.
be 30. There might be 15 on each list.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Goal 4, continuing to do our reaching out with our parents and continuing to be very strategic and encouraging them to participate in all of our committees and advisory groups. You heard Susie talk about parents being involved in that arts committee. They're also involved in our multicultural studies committee. They're really just making that extra effort to extend that invitation and to have them be there more than just at the school site, but also involved in other components that we have within the district. In addition, our parent liaison is doing some incredible work, and the plan for next year as we continue to push out at school sites is to have her work with the staff in the office to help bridge and actually help make phone calls, help the school sites make phone calls on site once a week. A rotation, it won't be every day at every single school site, but just trying to create that support system on the school site campus to help with all of these connections with families. And lastly, goal 5, a lot of the same. Our facilities are in disrepair in most places and really needing to focus in on our roofing and ventilation and water damage and all of those pieces. So we're seeing a lot of similar trends that we've seen in years past, but that's what goal 5 is. Any questions?
Anybody have questions before we move on?
Not about this, but now you're making me think about roofs.
Yeah, yeah. Leslie, when and this is a little bit too detailed probably for this, but when, we're focused on absenteeism and how we improve getting the students to school, do we call when a student is absent every time, or is it automated? Is it a person?
I think depending on the school site, every school site has a little bit of a different process. There's definitely an automated call and an automated email that goes out at every site. Many sites do personal phone calls, and sometimes there are sites that do like a big initiative, right? If we have this many kids who are chronically absent at this time, we're dividing, and like our ELT is going to call every person on your list that's been absent or is chronically absent and find out what we can do to support them in getting to school. Kind of changing the way we look at it instead of why aren't you at school and feeling punitive, but like what can we do to support you in getting your students to school and taking that approach instead.
Yeah. Dan?
Yeah, since that is a big part of our income, I would think that the district would have a policy that extended through all the schools, that had the same policy at each school, that had a system of addressing absenteeism at elementary, junior high school, and high school level.
Yes.
That it would be the same.
Yes, every school site must have some kind of notification to the parents about the absence, and then a parent needs to call and clear the absence. The level of whether that's an automated call or whether that's a personal call is left up to the school site, depending on the load of work and staffing at a particular school site.
I would think that a unison approach to this problem might be helpful, but that's just me. And it sounds like every school has their own way of handling it.
I think when you have the bigger populations like at Ramona High School, it's hard to do a personal call every time a student is absent versus at an elementary school, you have fewer students absent and a smaller population, and that's why you have something that looks a little different between elementary and secondary. But we have quarterly attendance meetings where we're sharing ideas and building out chronic absenteeism plans to help remedy this. And every single school site had to develop an attendance plan or goal or action in their their SPSA in order to address chronic absenteeism as a result of us and every other district and school site in the state falling under ATSI because of chronic absenteeism. We've seen a lot of post-COVID shifts as far as schools concerned in one, we train them if you have a sniffle to stay home, and so now we still see that a lot. And two, that when they're home and they can get their work done as they did asynchronously during COVID, they feel like, okay, well, my kids are getting their work done, that should be okay. And so you have some of that coming through also.
Isn't the state going to be really vigilant about if you miss more than 20 days in a semester or something like that? They're going to be really hard on attendance, I heard, next year. This year they've been kind of flexible, but next year I heard it's going to be really tough.
I do believe we had that alternative way of counting for ADA, and that is going away the following year. Is that right? Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Anything else? All right. Moving on, item 8 is a public hearing regarding the LCAP. This is a time for anybody that would like to address the board regarding the LCAP to come forward and do so, and even if you did not turn in an orange speaker slip. Public hearing is open. Don't all rush to the front. Okay. Nobody's moving. All right. Public hearing is now closed. Thank you very much. Item 9 is approval of instructional minutes and school times.
Yes, President Perfect and board members, each year in accordance with Ed Code, school districts must meet or exceed the minimum instructional minutes required for each grade level. Education Services has worked with school site administration to verify, based on the bell schedules that have been provided, each school and each grade level is meeting or exceeding the instructional minutes for this school year. This is a discussion possible action item, and the recommendation is for the board to approve the 23-24 school year instructional minutes.
Thank you. So do all schools meet or exceed the required number of instructional minutes?
Yes, in every grade level.
Very good. Anyone have questions?
Yes.
Yes.
Just looked at the numbers of start times and end times. What I noticed that, of course, we exceed the required number of minutes, but I was just curious, if start times and end times for all elementary schools are the same, how come there's such great difference in the number of minutes in different schools, especially in the kindergarten and the first grade? Some schools have difference of 2,600 minutes over the course of the school year.
You'd be amazing what a second recess does to instructional minutes. Some school sites offer an additional morning recess, and some school sites do not. And unless a recess is supervised by a certificated teacher, it does not count as instructional minutes. So when we have a campus security officer who is supervising for a 15-minute recess every single day, times the number of days we have in the school year, that adds up really quickly. Not all schools have a second recess for all their grade levels, in addition to, sometimes they do, but they opt, the kindergarten teachers will be the ones who are supervising it, or the first grade teachers might be the ones who are, depending on what it is. I'm not speaking to specifics right now. I would have to pull up each individual school's. They do a worksheet that looks kind of like this, where they go through each individual day and with their times and tell us what recesses each grade level has, and then that's how we verify it with their bell schedule. And what's also interesting is some grade levels you can count recess if it's being supervised, and some grade levels you can't.
I noticed that in grades, older elementary grades, especially 4 through 6, number of instructional minutes is very close, almost the same, but it greatly varied for
Yes.
the younger grades,
Yep.
kindergarten the first.
Yep.
I thought, okay, that's 2600 minutes. The greatest difference between two schools.
Yes.
And it's like
And it all has
44 hours a year.
And
It's-
it all has to do with a supervised recess by a certificated teacher. For example, at RCC, they often have like a nutrition break or a recess that's supervised by the teacher instead of having an additional like CSO supervised recess. And so those instructional minutes count because it's supervised by a certificated teacher, but only in certain grades. It doesn't. It's not in upper grades. It's ed code. It's a very interesting formula,
Because I thought,
to
what?
say the least.
4 almost 5 hours a
Yeah,
month.
it
difference?
yes, it adds up very quickly. That's for sure.
So I just had a question.
Sure.
Is it, with the way that you have the minutes, are we following typical 180 days, or with all the minimum days and other days, are we doing over that?
Yes. So on the schedule that they fill out, they have a 174 regular days and 6 minimum days in an elementary school. So each particular day is calculated differently. And you'll notice here we have TK's calculations, K's calculations. First is calculated because everybody has a different rule, and then 2nd through 6th calculations down below there.
I don't think we have that.
I don't have that.
don't have
That's
that
why
sheet.
I didn't.
Yeah, you don't
Okay.
normally. It's just my backup
Yeah.
for
Okay.
to help explain.
So are
Right.
we doing, how many more days than 180 are we doing?
We're not doing more than 180
We have
days.
just, on every level, we're exactly 180?
We're 180 days, but the instructional minutes within each day at each grade level is a little bit different based on what's required
Yeah.
by the state.
I understood that.
Yeah.
I was just curious about
Yeah.
how those were aligning, that's
Yes.
all.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
So remember that different elementary schools used to have different start times. Now I see it's all the same, right? So I don't know what it changed. I just noticed.
Yes. Yes.
Just
We.
this year, it's going to be all the same start times, or was it already like this?
It was that way this year also.
Okay.
Hmm. Yeah.
Okay. Any other questions? This is possible action. Is anybody ready to take action?
I'll move approval.
Thank you, Roger. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
That motion carries unanimously. Thank you. Item 10, approval of revisions to current courses of study for Spanish 1, 2, and 3.
Yes. So governing board, tonight we bring forward 3 courses of study for Spanish 1, 2, and 3. There's not a new course number, there's not a new course, but the standards were updated to world language in 2019. As a result, we need to have a new course of study that reflects the current standards. And so that is why we're bringing them forward. You will notice on the copies you're provided, anything in yellow is an update, which is pretty much everything, because the world language standards changed numbering, order, the way they worded them, everything. And so the course itself is the same, but the standards themselves have been reworded and changed. So we have to update those, and then that will follow with a pilot of instructional materials, which will be available for pickup for you this evening.
Thank you. So those revisions went home prior to the board meeting, and I think the board agenda is not in color, so if you're looking for the yellow areas, we cannot see
You
that
cannot
here
see them.
tonight.
Okay. Yes.
Yeah.
Just had
And,
one
what-
question.
Yes.
I noticed that for Spanish 2, you can take a placement test, so to skip Spanish 1.
Yes.
Also, and I understand 2 years of foreign language is a requirement.
It's
Is it-
not a requirement unless you want to go to a UC school.
Okay.
So it's not a graduation requirement.
Okay. I wonder why isn't it offered for Spanish 3 also to have a placement exam for somebody who is very well versed in the language, but maybe just wants to take it for 1 year as an elective, and maybe who has and maybe update their writing skills. there are some very good Spanish speakers. I mean, why aren't we offering it for Spanish 3 placement exam as well?
We struggle to get students to actually pass the Spanish 1 exam to get into Spanish 2. My guess would be if we found a student who passed that placement exam for Spanish 1 and like excelled beyond belief, a lot of times they're have very strong verbal skills or very strong reading skills, but their written skills are not what they need in order to skip a whole level. If we come across that where a student had aced that placement test and then we were to provide them like with maybe the Spanish 2 final to see how they were doing, we offer acceleration in math, acceleration in Spanish. We would definitely look into that. It would not be something that's a closed door by any means. We just have never encountered the need for it yet.
Just thought maybe some Spanish-speaking students may be considering it as an easy elective. Just jump straight to Spanish 3?
It depends on their verbal and written skills. They sometimes often don't have the written skills that they have the verbal, or they might have the verbal skills, but it's not necessarily the academic language that's needed in order to pass those placements, more conversational Spanish. And so there are some certain requirements that we have when we do that acceleration for Spanish.
Somehow it didn't occur to me that even some Spanish-speaking students may not have enough proficiency in writing skills even to place in the high school Spanish 3.
Yes.
Wow.
Yes.
So, this seems to be kind of upheaval in the world of the Spanish language, this major change. And the impulse of that, can you clarify in simple terms?
The state does a cycle of review of standards on a certain cycle and timeline, and that's kind of where we fell into this timeline with world language in 2019.
Okay. So the impulse is coming from the state?
Correct, because of the shift in the shift in the standards.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
For graduation requirements, are we accepting foreign language in place of fine art?
For a graduation requirement, they can do language other than English and CTE or VAPA.
Okay, so I just wanted to throw this out. We've got this grant for the arts. We have a plan for pathways from TK all the way through. If we really want to emphasize it, we might want to consider getting rid of the foreign language acceptance, I guess, in place of it. Because if we're going to put an emphasis on it, why are we allowing you to do foreign language when it is not fine art at all? And we do that. We do things like that a lot in education. But I'm thinking maybe we need to rethink what we're doing. Just throwing it out as it pertains to this.
We can have some future conversations about that, but you
I don't
might
know.
have to remind me if you want to.
Yeah, I don't know. I just wanted to throw it out there because if we just created an entire fine arts plan, and if this is our direction because we feel this is very valuable, I mean, I'm not saying language isn't. I think language is valuable too. I think the kids are going to continue to take the language anyways because they want to go to a UC school. The kids are going to are going to take it. So anyways, I don't know with the way that we have semesters if there's enough room for those kids. That's why it deserves the discussion.
Okay, this is an action item. Is anyone prepared to take action?
I'll move approval.
Thank you. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
The motion carries unanimously. Thank you. Item 11 is approval of updated instructional materials for power mechanics.
Yes, Governing Board, this evening we bring forward the updated 12th edition of small gas engines for your approval. This text is almost the same as the original text with the exception of the additional technology components and I'm not going to pretend that I know what this even means, but E85 fuel and repair issues related to E85. New emission laws, I do know what that is, and battery-powered equipment. And so we're asking for or recommending approval of these materials to move forward.
Very good.
I can move approval. I'm having a little bit of misunderstanding. Are we teaching small engines?
Mhm.
Because
This is in the power mechanics class.
okay,
Mhm.
because it's all going away in California. You can't even. I mean, it's really hard to buy stuff. Period. I mean, I don't know. I'm just.
Well, this update includes battery-powered equipment, so it's not going away, it's changing.
No, I mean, I understand that that's changing. I'm just saying that. And then the other thing is, is it just like general? We're just, like, are they just disassembling them and then repairing them? Is that what they're doing? Or are we building stuff? I know some small engines, they build go-karts. I mean, I don't know what we're doing. I was just curious.
Yeah, in power mechanics, they do a lot of that, like take this, take it apart, put it back together, know
Yeah.
all the components of an engine. And that is kind of that class. Most often freshmen take the power mechanics class, and that's their introductory class into maintenance, light, and repair 1 that starts our CTE pathway for that auto path.
So it's for the auto. Because I know there's
Yes.
ag mechanics too.
Yes,
That's
this
not
one,
this.
no, not this one. This one helps, it's like, it's not a part of the pathway of MLR 1 and 2 and 3, but it is that kind of precursor before that helps
Okay.
prepare them for the pathway.
Okay,
So
we're doing
procedurally,
traditional.
before we go on
Yeah.
too much, we did have a motion to approve, and
Yeah.
do we have a second? We won't call the question just yet.
I'll second.
Thank you. So motion by Dome, second by Summers.
I get it. This is we're doing the traditional way.
Yes.
Got it.
And is this textbook going to be used for the middle school also?
They, I believe we have a pilot going for that middle school
Okay.
course right
Alright.
now. I believe this one is just for the power mechanics for high school.
Is there a reason it's different?
I don't know. I would have to look into that. We have so many instructional materials out in that hallway right now. Keeping track of them, I can't.
Right.
I would have to get back to you on that one.
Thank you. Any other questions? Yes, Maya?
Not a question, I just wanted to comment. I was so pleasantly surprised when I looked at this book that besides professional things like welding, it's all about welding. This is about small engines, but what I was delighted to see was also information about how to put your resume together, how to succeed in the workplace, maintain professional appearance, work habits, time management, professional behavior, decision-making, problem-solving, letter of application, so all those things that are just general work ethics and how to present yourself and how to be professional and how to behave in a professional manner. I was delighted to see that, and I did not expect to see it in small gas engines textbook.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know less about small engines than Mrs. Wilson does, and less about welding than anybody in this room. But I did take the time, and I went through the table of contents, and I thumbed through the book. And I was appreciative that it went from like theory to function and mechanics, and then it just progressed right on through until the end. It just made a lot of sense to me. And the same with the welding book. You know, you start with theory and then function, and they had a lot of safety in there as well. I thought it was an outstanding textbook.
He tried to stump me with the question when I walked in.
Okay, so this is an action item. We do have a first and a second. I'm going to go ahead and call it. All in favor?
Aye.
That motion passes unanimously. Thank you. Moving to section G, and that's human resources. Leslie, you did great. That was a heavy load tonight. All right, section G, and the next item for our attention is G4, approval of revised declaration of need for fully qualified educators for the 2022-2023 school year.
Members of the board, this declaration is needed to, when we hire teaching candidates who are missing an authorization, it could be CLAD or particular authorization in science. This is a revision of this current year's declaration of need. Unfortunately, when this was presented earlier, it was done inappropriately. Well, there was a mistake, and the commission emailed Mrs. Grace, and we did not hear about that because Mrs. Grace's email was turned off after she retired. So this is a revision so that we can ensure that all these teachers that we've hired are taken care of.
You used a word, CLAD. What does that stand for?
Well, I don't even know what it actually
You can just
stands for.
describe what it is. That's
But
fine.
English learners, it's an authorization to teach English learners.
All right, very
But
good.
I don't remember. That's a great question. I've said CLAD my whole career, and
I know, and I've been calling staff members out on that just a little bit because we do have new board members. Usually I know, but not always, and that one I didn't know myself, so Leslie's looked it up.
Cross-cultural language
Okay.
academic development.
That's correct.
Cross-cultural language
That's what it
academic
means.
development. Okay, yes.
That's what I had all this time.
That could be a good guess, and we wouldn't know the difference.
Google's a great thing. There are so many acronyms in education.
Yeah.
Too many.
And I guess I still do have a glossary of terms in my board binder. I don't know if everyone has that in the back. But, yeah, Dan has it, Maya does too. It's something that I gathered along the way somewhere and we just started implementing, but it probably needs updating, right? There's probably some things missing from there.
CLAD's not on it.
CLAD is not on
Not
it.
on it. No, it's not.
Right. Yes, so maybe we should revise that at some point. Okay, so this is an action item. Do we have a motion?
I'll move approval.
Thank you.
I'll second it.
Can I ask?
I'll second.
Yes, question?
Just what's English language authorization? What exactly is authorizing?
It's strategies, it gives professional development for teachers to be able to use strategies to help English learners, to help scaffold their instruction so that English learners can access the curriculum. So even though it's an English learner authorization, it allows teachers to have English learners in their classroom. That's what they're authorized to do. And it's professional development where they get the strategies and the techniques to help students of second language learners.
But now it's embedded into any program.
It isn't.
Yeah, this is for those that
It's
got their credential without
out of state.
or out of state. Yeah.
California, it's embedded in every program.
Right.
Okay. We have a first, we have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
That motion carries unanimously. Thank you. Item G5 is approval of district calendar for the 2024-2025 school year.
Members of the board, in working with both RTA and CSEA leadership and representatives, this is the culmination of that work and the proposed instructional calendar for that stated year. Summarizing the work has these specific days on here. We're asking for the board to approve this instructional calendar.
Very good. Thank you.
It's very similar to the past previous years. There's nothing different.
It appears so, but it does look like spring break is not associated with Easter. Is that correct?
That is correct, and that was because of the lateness of Easter. The survey that went out, there was a desire to have it sooner with that.
Okay. Does anyone have questions?
Yes, last day of school, June 5th. Are graduations before or after last day of school?
Well, depends on your graduation. So Mountain Valley's graduation would be the 3rd, Montecito would be the 4th, Ramona High School would be the 5th, just like it was this year, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday.
So last day of school means already graduations have been completed by then.
Well, yeah,
Yes.
as you well know, at Mountain Valley, students stopped attending even the last 2 weeks. Montecito, they have a day after graduation, yes. Their attendance, they might be getting some phone calls.
Do we have a motion to approve this?
I'll move approval.
Thank you.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
That motion carries unanimously. Thank you very much. We are now on item G6. That's approval of uniform complaint quarterly report, Williams case complaints.
You can see on the next page that we've had 0 Williams complaints. We're asking for approval.
I move approval.
Thank you.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
That carries unanimously as well. Thank you. Item G7. Approval of memorandums of understanding between Ramona Unified School District and California School Employee Association and its Ramona Chapter 733 regarding reclassification and salary ranges.
As part of our association partnership with CSEA, we a couple times throughout the year take a look at reclassifying positions that have taken on higher duties, more complex duties, and these 3 MOUs represent the work of the reclassification committee, which are district representatives from human resources, as well as administrative services, and then CSEA reclassification committee members. And so we're asking the board to approve these 3 MOUs that were started quite a ways back, but because of various factors have taken this long to complete.
Okay. And it looks like one in food services. Scrolling down. Information systems support specialist. Changing. Sorry, I'm scrolling.
Nope, you're fine.
Okay. And groundskeeper 1 reclassified to groundskeeper 2. Is that correct?
Yep.
Okay.
All based upon the responsibilities and duties that they currently are performing, these 3 employees.
Okay. Very good. This is an action item. Do we have anyone that would like to make
I
a
move
motion?
to approve.
Thank you. Way to get on the board, Dan. All right. Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
Any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
That motion passes unanimously. Thank you. Item G8, oral summary of compensation for the management, confidential salary schedule and work year conditions. This is an information item.
This matter is held in the open session at the regular meeting of the governing board in accordance with the Brown Act, Government Code Section 54953, Subdivision C3, states that prior to taking final action on executive compensation, the board must orally summarize the recommendation for final action on the salary, compensation, and/or fringe benefits that will be considered. A summary of the revision to management confidential salary schedule, salary work year conditions is as follows. Benefited management confidential employees who are retiring shall be eligible and may apply for paid medical, dental, and vision insurance benefits under the same conditions outlined in the RTA RUSD collective bargaining agreement. These conditions include 15 complete years of service with RUSD, last 5 must be consecutive and has reached or passed the age of 57 years. Employee-only coverage for the retiree in the medical plan provided by the district. Retirees may change plans during open enrollment. However, the retiree will cover the difference in cost if the employee chooses to change to a more expensive plan. And coverage should be provided for up to 7 calendar years or until the retiree is eligible for Medicare, whichever comes first.
Thank you very much. This is an information piece, so no motion needed, but if you have questions, now's a good time to ask them. All right, seeing none, we'll move on to the next, which is item G9, approval of revision to management confidential salary conditions.
So this, it reflects the inclusion of retiree health benefits.
And this is an action item.
I'll move approval.
Thank you.
I'll second.
Very good. Any questions? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
That passes unanimously. Thank you very much. Item G10, approval of revision to management confidential salary schedule.
Members of the board, we are proposing to approve 3 positions: the Director of Special Education, a Director of Multi-Tiered System of Support, and Director of Learning and Assessment that will help us meet the social, emotional, academic needs of our students as we move forward, and you have those job descriptions that are attached.
Okay. Any questions about
Yes, I have fiscal impact 100,000. Is it one time? Is it a year?
You want to respond to the fiscal impact? This 100,000.
It says, yeah.
That is a one-time cost for this year, and then there's normal step and column increases.
Okay,
the
just
following
one time.
year.
It's one time.
Thank you.
Any other question? Okay, this is an action item.
I'll move approval.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
That motion passes unanimously. Thank you. Karina, hopefully you got that first and second, because I did not. All right, item G11, oral summary of compensation for superintendent of schools.
Okay. Read this out. This matter is held in the open session at the regular meeting of the governing board in accordance with the Brown Act, Government Code Section 54953, subsection C3 states that prior to taking final action on executive compensation, the board must orally summarize the recommendation for final action on the salary, compensation, and/or fringe benefits that will be considered. A summary of the compensation provisions in the proposed superintendent's contract is as follows. 1. A term of 3 years commencing July 1, 2023 and ending June 30th, 2026. 2. Beginning on July 1st, 2023, the salary of the superintendent shall be $222,600. Okay. And 3. Beginning on July 1st, 2024, the salary of the superintendent shall be $229,278. And 4, beginning on July 1st, 2025, the salary of the superintendent shall be $36,156. I was just trying to make sure that the corrections were in the statement as well in the number.
Yes. Very good. Thank you for that readout. I appreciate it. This is an information item. Roger, thank you for providing that information. Do the board members have any questions? Okay, moving on to item G12, approval of amendments to the employee agreement between Ramona Unified School District and Brian Thurman, Superintendent of Schools.
Members of the board, per the board's direction, there's an amendment to the superintendent of the schools contract that includes the changes that Mr. Dome just summarized.
Thank you.
Move approval.
Second.
Very good. Dom and Son. All right.
I'll second.
Very good. I gotcha. All in favor?
Aye.
That motion carries unanimously. Thank you, team, and thank you, Brian. All right.
Thanks to all of you, board, 100% for your trust. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. Okay, we are now on item H, that's Administrative Services Division. Wait, I see somebody coming forward, but I haven't gotten to the item yet. Okay. All right, item H9, presentation on the proposed budget for the 2023-2024 school year. Information.
Good evening, members of the board. The presentation of the 23-24 school year budget will be provided to the Board of Education as an informational opportunity to review the financial status of the district for the upcoming year. And I'm so excited to have Daniel Running, our Fiscal Services Manager, presenting for us tonight.
Good evening and welcome.
Good evening, President Perfect, members of the board. Thank you for having me here to present the 2023-24 proposed budget. So in this presentation, we'll go over a few things. First, we'll go over the economic outlook for the state of California for the coming fiscal year. Then we'll discuss the May revision of the governor's budget and some of the highlights from that. We'll also talk about the assumptions that we use in budget development here at Ramona Unified. Then we'll get into some of the numbers. We'll look at both the unrestricted and restricted side of the general fund, both estimated actuals for this year and the proposed budget for the coming year. Then we'll put all of that together and move into a multi-year projection and project what we think the finances will look like for the next 2 years out. And then we will talk about the balances in excess of minimum reserve requirements. All right, so economic outlook. The governor's May revision highlights several risks to the economy of the state of California for the coming year. One of the ones that we've noted is the increased cost of borrowing due to interest rate hikes. This is a direct reaction to inflation, which is becoming more under control, but still high. It's likely that we'll continue to see these rate hikes, probably 25 basis point hikes for at least the next few months. Another thing to note is bank failures. We had about 3 major banks fail in the last few months. These are also have everything to do with those interest rate hikes and thus inflation. They expose themselves to interest rate risk by holding long-term debt. Interest rates go up, those lose value, banks get squeezed, banks fail. It's unclear whether that's going to be an issue throughout the entire financial sector. It seems to have kind of become stable. Haven't seen anybody else fail, but that's something to watch. Slow job growth and unemployment rate is projected to increase for the coming year, as well as, and this is probably the most important factor for us in school business, is the delay of personal income and corporation tax revenues until mid-October. It also highlights some positive outlooks. There is no anticipation of a recession within the governor's budget. It projects nationwide economic growth will be positive. It also projects that inflation will begin to stabilize. We've already seen that begin to happen, but so, like I said, I think those interest rate hikes will stop in the next few months. And then consumer spending is still strong, which is not indicative of a impending recession. So despite the state's economic uncertainty, education will be a category of investment and protection in the new budget. The revised budget fully funds a higher than projected cost of living adjustment of 8.22%.
That's up from 8.13% in January. This is applied to special education and children's nutrition funding. It's important to note that in order to fund this COLA, the May revision relies on cutting one-time funding, specifically the arts, music, and instructional materials discretionary block grant was reduced by 50%, and the learning recovery emergency block grant was reduced by about 33%. We will remain cautious and informed of the economic state, the state of the economy in California, and adjust our budget accordingly. So here are some of the assumptions that we've used in projecting and creating this budget as well as the coming years. Some of the things to note in this particularly is that statutory COLA. As you can see, the 8.22%, and then it sort of comes back to earth in the next 2 years at 3.94% and 3.29%. You'll also notice that in these factors we have our enrollment and average daily attendance, which is projecting the trend, the historical trend here at Ramona Unified of declining enrollment. We get all of these factors from multiple sources: the Governor's May revision, School Services of California, and the San Diego County Office of Education. All right, so let's get into some of the numbers. So here's a projection for our unrestricted general fund. This has on the left the 22-23 estimated actuals for this year, and then the 23-24 proposed budget for next year. The most important increase on this is that about $3 million in the LCFF sources. That's directly associated with the 8.22% COLA. As you go down, you can see the other state revenue remains relatively flat, and the other local revenue, the difference there is actually carryover. The estimated actuals has carryover in it from last year. We don't put the carryover into the proposed budget until after year-end closing, when we have a better idea what that'll look like. Here's the expense side, both estimated actuals and proposed budget. You can see that the certificated salaries, classified salaries, all employee benefits all go up. This does, both sides of this has our new collective bargaining agreements in it. That's why you don't see a major marked increase, but you can also see the books and supplies has a $300,000 difference. That is also carryover related. When we bring carryover over from the previous year, we usually put it into the 4,000s, or books and supplies is SACS coding. And then another important thing to notice on this slide is the increase in contribution. You can see that's about a $1.4 million increase to the contribution. That is directly related to the personnel costs associated with the new collective bargaining agreements.
Excuse me.
So here's a summary of both those slides, both revenues and expenditures. Once again, you can see the contributions right there as being the most marked increase. Also shows that we will be going into deficit spending in 23-24, but we do project to have a positive ending fund balance on the unrestricted side of our general fund. Here is a summary of the restricted side. This one's a little bit more dramatic to look at. You can see the revenues for this year and the revenues for the coming year have about a $10 million difference. This is just one-time funding coming to an end. A lot of the ESSER and GEAR funds, as well as some of those cuts to the arts and music and learning recovery block grant, which are also already taken into estimated actuals. The contribution is also here. And you can also see that we are projecting a positive ending fund balance in the restricted side of our general fund as well. So here's a combination of both of them, revenues and expenditures. And you can see here that we are also projecting an ending fund balance for both combined. And then here's our multi-year projection. This takes in all those planning factors, everything we have from the May revision, all of our historical trends, and what we're projecting the finances to look like for the next 3 years. And we do project that the district will have a positive ending fund balance for this year and the 2 following years. This is our balances in excess of minimum reserve requirements slide. So what this is saying, it's kind of a busy slide, is we have to declare what our excess reserves are and what we're using them for. So as you can see here, we have about a $4.4 million excess reserves. We factor in the 3% that's required for the excess reserve requirements for economic uncertainties, as well as the 2% required by board resolution. for economic uncertainties. That brings us to the 5%. The remainder of that is also assigned by board resolution for electric bus batteries and future COP payments. And that is the 23-24 proposed budget.
That was a lot really fast.
I know.
Like really fast.
Thank you. So just on your slide number 4, you mentioned about the cuts to the art and music grant.
Yes.
So they took away one kind of grant, gave us a different one?
Yes,
Tony's
they did.
laughing.
So we're shifting.
Shifting.
So we have cuts in those two, and then we're shifting them over to the Prop 28 for some things.
But we had Prop 28 before we had the cut.
Yes.
Oh, okay. So it really is a cut,
So
sort of.
Yeah. Yes, we're
Kinda.
still having funds cut.
Okay.
Technically, but then we're getting more money.
But they were short-term money. This
Right.
is ongoing.
Right.
Right, which is better.
Okay, very good. Thank you for that. And then you mentioned about books and supplies carryover. So do we have money sitting in these funds to purchase textbooks? We're going through a lot of textbook adoption exercises right now. So is that where money for textbooks is?
So we actually have money committed for textbooks already. That
Okay.
hasn't been touched yet, so that's not even
So
part
that's
of
in a
this.
fund something?
That's in part of our ending fund balance. It's committed already.
Okay, very good, thank you. Okay, that was it on mine. Anybody else have any questions?
Question on page 6 that has to do with the other local revenue, and you basically said that was carryover. What is that carryover? Can you dissect that for me?
Yes, that's mostly the donations that the sites receive. So when they receive donations, they don't necessarily spend it all in a single year. So at the end of the year, we go back and we see what they didn't spend, and we then roll it over for the next year.
Is that also ASB accounts?
No.
No, so that's just the
No
donations.
ASB, yeah, just donations. So any site-based income accounts can go in there.
Okay. So that big one that we got from track and field is in there.
So that would
Or
be
is that
something, yeah,
separate?
that's considered other local revenue. So the neighborhood reinvestment grant, any of that money that's unspent, or the donations from Schwab, any of that money, that'll sit there until it's used. But for budgeting purposes, since it's
You
a
don't.
one-time money, it's it's just sitting there. We do not put that in the budget as new money going forward. We add it in after year-end closing, after we've recognized all the expenses.
Just want to make sure. So, when we come to the end of our actuals, there could be a positive or a negative. So, how do we know what that is on this? How do we know? Do we have a residual left over?
So that's something part of our monthly budget oversight that we do for sites. We look at all their money. We look at any kind of donation funds that they have, any purchase requisitions they put in through the year. That's something that like Daniel will go through, and he actually reviews and approves it and checks their budget to make sure that they have money in there. So then it's never going negative for them at all. So it's monitored on a monthly basis.
Okay, so when we're at the very end, when we're talking about the multi-year projection, that's including any extra monies that we had that we didn't spend during the calendar year.
Anything unspent on that multiple year is only considered, actually, it's not even on this part right here if it's like the other local revenues. We don't budget any of that leftover kind of money going forward. It's part of the ending fund balance, but it's not actually plugged into the budget per se.
Okay. Now I was just trying to understand. I know in the past we've had extra money and then we're like, okay, we're going to apply it here. So, but we're not doing that at all.
So that's something like when we're looking at first interim or second interim, if there's any kind of funding that's left over that has deadlines, we look at it at those times. We try to be proactive on that so that we don't end up with extra funding at the end of a school year or lose any money, if that's what you're getting to make sure we
So
don't
we're
have
not
to-
going to have any carryover for next year except for the donation monies.
We still would have carryover, so if we have, and it's different when we talk about the unrestricted and restricted side. Restricted, there is carryover on that end.
Right.
And that's restricted, we can't touch it. On the unrestricted side of the budget, we could have unrestricted lottery money. So if anything's unspent, that's part of that part of money. So that's the same thing, that sits in like the estimated actual side. We do year-end closing, we realize that amount, and then we take that, and then we will add it to the budget, and you'll see that at first interim. We'll point out that the budget increased from budget adoption to first interim because of X amount, and then we've applied it, to salaries, or what Daniel was saying, the 4,000 code for us is books and supplies or contracted services. So we'll call it out at that time if there's an increase to the budget from carryover items.
Okay, and then on the 3-year projection, when you're talking about the COLA, it's going to be lower than, we kind of anticipated that. We anticipated for all those shortfalls when we did negotiations and stuff,
Yes.
right?
Yep, we definitely
So
do.
make sure this.
We have a safety plan.
Okay.
Yes.
I thought we did, but I just wanted to ask about it.
Yes, we have a safety plan and non-personnel expenses. We have a safety kind of set up of where we can look to if we need to shift and make adjustments if needed.
Okay.
So we'll have a better picture, obviously, at first interim if there's any changes that come up, or even beforehand, we can tell you in a board update if anything changes.
Okay, sounds good.
Yep.
Thanks.
Thank
Very
you.
good. Any other questions?
I would just like to
Yes.
commend Administrative Services, Mrs. Satterley and Mr. Renning on just the scrambling that's had to take place to get to where we are. This is a result of months of work. We're going to be able to do some significant roofing projects this summer as a result of amazing planning at the second interim. If you remembered, right when Mrs. Satterley started, we had second interim coming up, and there were committed funds for these types of projects. So just a huge commendation to both of them for their tireless work, sometimes 7 days a week, to get to where we are here. And it just was a huge task, and I'm very, very appreciative of your diligent work with all of us. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
And
you.
very nice report, Daniel. Thank you.
Yeah.
All right. So this was information only. Thank you for that abundance of information. Next item is H10, and that's a public hearing to receive input of the proposed budget that we just discussed. So, public hearing is now open. It is the time for anybody to come forward that would like to speak to us. Yep.
There's two people.
Oh, I was getting excited. These public hearings. Okay, seeing none, public hearing is now closed. All right, 8:42. Okay. Item H11 is approval of resolution number 2022-23-42 and 2022-23-43 to close Sun Valley Charter School fund accounts and transfer balances to the Ramona Unified School District's unrestricted general fund. Whew, okay.
That was great. You did a good job.
Thanks.
Members of the board, the County of San Diego is requiring school districts to close out old accounts currently held at the county treasurer for charter schools that are no longer open. So I know this is very old, but back in 2002, the governing board of the Ramona Unified School District approved the establishments of 2 separate funds for the district-sponsored Sun Valley Charter School, which Daniel's brother happened to attend. I had to throw that in there because he's in here. The Sun Valley Charter School was closed in 2008, and these funds, fund accounts must be closed. So the Sun Valley Charter School has no outstanding debts with the California Department of Education, and the current balance is in 2 different accounts. We have $5,262.55 and $22,476.45, along with any unearned interest that has not yet posted. So these 2 resolutions will be to transfer these funds into the Ramona Unified School District's unrestricted general fund upon board approval of these resolutions. And this is an action item for both of these.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
I move approval.
I'll second.
All right. Any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
That motion carries unanimously. Thank you.
So we now have 27,000 we didn't know about.
I suspect we knew about it, but yeah. H12, approval to award bid transportation services for special needs students, project bid number 2023-10.
Okay, members of the board, this is something you probably haven't seen before because it is new with Ed Code that contracts that exceed $10,000 a year for transportation services must go out to bid. So that's why you're seeing this now. So we went out to bid for 4 different students that we have for NPS transportation services. And what we would like to do is we would like to award the bid for all 3 of the contracts that we received, so that we can go with the lowest award first, and then we have backup plans if needed, because we did come into some situations this year where we didn't have enough contracted services to provide this for our students.
Okay, so you used a word there, another acronym, NPS Transportation Services, non-public. Oh, go ahead. Tony's
yes,
excited.
Non-public school, sorry.
That's okay.
Sorry. Yes, non-public school. So when we are required by an IEP to send our student down to a non-public school.
Okay, thank you very much.
You're welcome. Sorry about that.
That's okay. No, I'm really just making an effort to get those acronyms out here so that our board really has a good understanding of the material. So thank you. All right, this is an action item. Thank you, Maya. Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
Very good. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. We'll get those kids to school. All right, item H13 is approval of acceptance of gifts.
Members of the board, we are very fortunate for our 4US Friends of Ramona Unified School District to award us with a gift of $2,230.77. This will be for 1 AED unit. I don't have that acronym memorized. For Montecito High School, and 5 of the hanging boxes that the AED units reside in for Hanson, Montecito, Mount Woodson, RCMS, and Ramona Elementary School. And this is an action item.
Thank you.
So, just to clarify, 1 AED, but the boxes for the other ones that didn't have a box?
They did, but they needed to be replaced.
Oh, okay.
Why?
There's, if they get old, there's some type of limit on them, but we have, the AEDs are still good that are in them.
The technology changes. It improves.
Of the box?
I'm talking about the AED.
Mm-hmm.
It changes.
I could get further clarification of exactly why. I know there was something with the boxes that, I don't remember if they were exactly broken, because there's a fly.
Yeah, it was
around me.
You mean that it has a case and the AED fits into a
The
plastic
actual
case?
hanging box
Like
on the
hangs
wall.
on the
Oh, the
wall.
hanging box on the wall.
Like the one we have down here
That's
in
why I
our
asked what
office.
was
It's
wrong
the
with
hanging box that has like the glass in front of it.
That's strange,
The
because
boxes.
maybe they didn't have alarms. They're supposed to have an
It's
alarm
possible.
on it. Yeah.
I will definitely follow up with, in the
Yeah.
board update, with exactly what the 5
That's probably
box
what it
issues
was.
were.
You know? Seems kind of odd.
I don't know about the boxes, but I know that the AEDs, the technology, is improving.
Right, but it's just the box. It's strange to me. I don't understand.
Any ideas, Darren? No? About these boxes?
You should know. That's your profession.
Well, they might be alarmed like Roger said.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's
But I
just
don't think there's a
alarms.
code that says they have to be alarmed.
Yeah, I don't know. It's
Well,
been a while.
I doubt that staff would put this on here if it
No
wasn't
idea.
necessary and generous for us to do it.
Yeah.
If anybody's had to take an AED off the hook in the box that it sits on, and I'm sure a couple of you have, it does sound an alarm when you do that.
Yeah.
And it keeps going until you do something about it, which is a little stressful if you already have a stressful situation. Just FYI. My solution was to find a purse to hang on that hook to make the noise stop while we dealt with the person who was down.
Students like to open the box because of the noise.
I'll move approval.
Thank you.
We're good with it.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
That motion carries unanimously, and thank you once again to 4US. They work so hard for this money. They really, really do, and it is so appreciated. All right. Our next item is approval of acceptance of grants.
Okay, members of the board, the California Department of Education has awarded Ramona Unified School District with a grant of $1,774 for a kitchen infrastructure and training fund. These funds will be used to increase our school's capacity to freshly prepare school meals using minimally processed foods, locally grown and sustainable foods, and to reduce waste. Some of the items that the money can be used for is a new walk-in freezer at the central warehouse. It'll also allow for the storage of 2 months of food supply. So this will definitely help us when we've had shortages of getting food delivered. We also are looking at getting a new delivery van, new technology. Our equipment currently in our food and nutrition services is over 12 years old. So some of the technology would be computers, monitors, and laptops for the point of sale system. And there's other infrastructure items that they're looking at replacing, such as old and outdated equipment, milk coolers, heated cabinets, steamers, and refrigerators. And the other items to go towards the freshly prepared meal is they'll be attempting new menus, new student taste test, and all kitchens will need new and more pots, tables, cutlery, bowls, etc. This is an action item.
Is this going to be one centrally located location for all of the schools? Because this is going to be a big, massive walk-in freezer.
So we do have the main kitchen is we have at OPMS and Ramona High School. So those are the two main areas for the warehouse and kitchens.
So it'll be there.
So they're looking at getting infrastructure those two places, but they also need new like the other outdated equipment, milk coolers, heated cabinets, and steamers, refrigerators. Those are at all the school sites as well.
What's sustainable food?
Sustainable food. I would have
don't
to find
know
out
what-
exactly.
I have no idea what that is.
I believe that's more commodity-related food that I know that's a level of expertise for our food service director, bringing some of the commodity foods in, fresh fruits and vegetables specifically.
Is that what they mean?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Haven't heard that before.
Okay, this is an action item. Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
I'll second.
Any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
That motion carries unanimously. Thank you very much. Oh, look, you found your acronyms list. Very good. Okay. Next section is district operations, and we begin with our superintendent's report.
Good evening, President Perfect, members of the board, and RUSD community. Welcome to the end of the 22-23 school year. What a year of hard work, perseverance, trials, challenges, victories, and celebrations. As I've reflected on this year, I have lots of great memories. I remember meeting with students at the beginning of the year that were receiving interventions and making great growth. Sometimes a principal or a teacher would say, let me show you this student or introduce you to this student. Let them tell you about their progress that they've been making already this year. Great memories of talking with students about their growth, seeing their excitement. Also, just numerous notes, emails, messages welcoming me to RUSD with a common theme, saying you're going to really like the people here in RUSD, just from my first moments right after the board named me here. And I just can't stress that enough, that's such truth spoken to me then. And I just have learned so much about our people, how much, so incredibly hard that our employees work day and night. I also remember staff members throughout the district who experienced tragedies this year, and one of our own district office tragedies in the loss of Brenda Shirley. What a loss for our USD, and we wish her family well in her absence, and just our thoughts are with our other staff members throughout the district who have had experienced loss this year. I remember meeting with many community members from Ramona regarding concerns or other challenges and working together towards solutions. Just everyone was really solution focused and such a positive mindset. I remember my first meeting with the For Us team was very memorable as I learned about all the work they do for our students. And again, just nonstop, the way they work with businesses and companies to bring in donations. Same is true for my first Sun Valley Council PTA meeting and all the meetings from there on. Just all of the wonderful things that they're doing for our students and supporting each other, different PTA presidents supporting each other with ideas and ways to help. I remember really leaving late sometimes and stopping to talk to neighbors in the parking lot. They're walking their dogs or just on a walk, and asking them, getting to know them, and hearing about their child's experience in RUSD and just the positive outlook they had and the gratitude they had for Ramona Unified District, sometimes 15, 20 years in the past. So I remember the recent rains we've had this year and how much damage that caused, and how our custodial staff members, M&O, absolutely worked tirelessly to keep our classrooms open and functioning for every single RUSD student. And sometimes that meant Sunday inspections throughout every site to see what was going on and making sure we were able to fix those. I remember meeting with members of our ELOP team and food service staff and helping problem solve as we were all planning for the increase in students this year without our full workforce in ELOP and in the cafeterias. Also remember our bus drivers as they work so hard every day to make sure our students were brought to school and delivered to their stops safely, especially when they also had multiple open positions this year that we haven't been able to fill. So we're still working on those. Throughout all these circumstances, some of these very positive and not so positive, a common theme has always been that our RUSD community does whatever it takes for students, and it's just been evident to me every single day. I've never been so proud to work with such a team of hardworking, dedicated professionals in education, and I'm just extremely impressed with the RUSD commitment to students and families in everything we do. So huge thanks to you, board, for your leadership and your trust in me throughout this year. Very appreciative of this opportunity. I don't take this responsibility lightly. I also want to just take an opportunity to thank our cabinet team. They have been just an unstoppable force as we've gelled together and just share and push and learn from each other. And I also want to thank Mrs. McMillan for her support and ideas and all of her input throughout all of these processes. And just extremely, I'm grateful, greatly appreciative of all of your help and support. And very, very excited for the 23-24 school year. We've been talking about it now for some time. So thank you all.
Excellent. Very nice report, Brian. Thank you. Okay. Board member reports. So this is the time. If board has any brief comments they would like to make or report on activities, this is the time. Who would like to begin?
Well, I will.
Great. Thank you, Dan.
This Friday is the For Us golf tournament. 7 o'clock in the morning at Mount Woodson. I've signed up to play. It's $130, but the money goes to us. So I recommend, if you haven't signed up to play, if you've never played golf in your life, give it a shot. It's fun. Golf tournament, Friday morning. I went to open house at Mount Woodson. I went to 6 graduations. What an uplifting, exciting, encouraging experience. The open house, you know, the energy level in all those classrooms, you could cut it with a knife. The kids are excited. The teachers worked very hard to make their classrooms presentable. With all the student projects were up, it was a wonderful experience. I enjoyed it. The California School Board Association has chosen to have their convention in November in the city of San Francisco. Now, they have a northern convention and they have a southern convention. The southern one was held in San Diego, but they've chosen the city of San Francisco for the northern convention. The city of San Francisco has devolved into a lawless hellhole thanks to city administration. They defunded their police. They stopped enforcing vagrancy laws. They're actually providing drug paraphernalia to people on the street. There's massive looting going on. Nationwide chain stores are leaving San Francisco. And the California School Board decides to have the convention in San Francisco with a significant walk between the hotel and the convention itself. I choose not to go. I went to San Diego, had a great time, a lot of marketing, a lot of good classes. I really enjoyed it. But I'm choosing not to go to San Francisco. They could have had it in Sacramento. The Republican Party has two conventions a year, just like the California School Board Association. One of them is in Sacramento. One of them is in either in Anaheim or San Diego. No problem. Go to them all the time. No issues. But for me to go to San Francisco under the circumstances is a risk. It's not a mandatory convention, and I choose not to take that risk. So I will not be going this year. Thank you for the time.
Thank you. Darren, are you ready? Looks like you have notes.
I am. Boy, it's been a year of change for Ramona Unified. A lot of us, or most of us, sat here in this room a year ago wondering who our new superintendent was going to be. We had no idea that we were going to be, that our new superintendent was going to be replacing cabinet too. And to say that I think we hit a home run as a board in picking a superintendent, I think is an understatement. And I think he might have one-upped us in picking his staff because you guys have really done a great job. A lot of turnover in this district, not just in this room. New principal at Ramona High School. We will have a new principal at Olive Pierce. We will have a new principal at Hanson Elementary. We'll have a new principal at Ramona Elementary. Sort of a new principal. We will have sort of a new principal at Mount Woodson. And we'll have a new principal at Barnett. And I can only hope that the success that we have had so far in picking the administrative leaders will carry through to the site administrators. So thank you all for the hard work that you do. And then thank you all to the staff, both the classified and certificated staff, for a really, really great year, and with so many questions about what it was going to look like. And boy, that just is a testament to our teachers and our classified staff, that they just keep the mission in the front of their mind, and they take good care of kids, and let us take care of him, let him take care of them, and let the teachers do what the teachers do best, which is interact, and our certificated staff, classified staff, which is interact every day with the kids, make them feel welcome, make them feel loved, and concentrate on working hard on those two missions, and oh, by the way, educating them. But without those other two things, education is hard to make happen. So boy, I wish there was every member of our staff was here to hear this, but boy, a heartfelt thank you. So I hope they're listening at home. And if not, Brian, please carry that message down.
Thank you very much, Darren. Leah.
The past couple of weeks, it was a delightful time when I attended a number of graduations and promotions, 6 to be precise, just in the last week, 2 a day. We all, most of us, also there were some awards ceremonies and there are weeks coming up to that. Throughout the entire school year, I really enjoyed working with all our cabinet and all our staff. Every interaction was so delightful. It was really enjoyable for me. I learned some lessons in the past school year. For example, I didn't have to wait so long to request school visits. When I finally thought about it, it was already getting closer to the school end. It was hard to schedule them. So my intention for the new school year is to take care of things right away and get them scheduled right away and get them requested right away, so I don't have to wait. So my intention for the new school year is to visit classrooms in multiple school sites throughout the year, throughout more than once. So I hope to visit all school sites, elementary, middle, and high school. So as also I learned not to wait. For example, when the St. Thomas voted me and I let it go, so I waited. And, I waited until I created misunderstanding in the community. So that time I filed a request for correction, and St. Thomas did an excellent job setting the record straight. On May 25th, they published the correction page 2. And they phrased it beautifully. And I was happy with
Well, I think this marks a milestone. We made it through an entire year of not having COVID. So it's been actually quite wonderful. So we hired Brian right out of the gate of no COVID. So it has been a really nice transition. I know this is, students are still struggling though. We've seen it just because they've been pretty much isolated for the last 2 years, and so they've lost their social development. That has been a challenge for, we saw it in our middle schools. Every single middle school nationwide had lots of difficulties, and the high schools did too. So, and I saw it firsthand, so I know what that's like. And then I wanted to point out something about at least the Ramona High School graduation, that because it's, you know, in 16 years I finally got to go to a Poway High School graduation because it didn't conflict with Ramona. And something that I noticed that I really like about the Ramona High School graduations, that's how it feels like every teacher at the campus is there. And I have to say the commitment to the students, it's pretty amazing. I did not see that at Poway. They had a chair for every teacher, and I think only 25% of them were full. So there was definitely a difference. I noticed it right away. And somebody asked me, and I'm like, oh, Ramona's are better. But that's just my opinion, you know. So, and I think it helps to have a nice duo speaking to us of administration. That was really fun. And I think that you know, it's good. It's a good opportunity to go and see what others are doing. I mean, we do that with our pedagogy and curriculum, and just to see different strategies that people do. But I hadn't done that with graduation, so that, I mean, because it's usually just Ramona. So it was great. And then Montecitos was wonderful. I can't remember the gal's name, Paulina. I've never cried at a graduation before. That was my first. I think everybody behind me was bawling too. It was, I mean, you talk about resiliency and struggle. I mean, we all struggle when we learn. We're all uncomfortable in doing it, but not everybody has to, like, truly struggle like that. So hopefully that story gets into like an administrator magazine or something. That needs to be shared. It's pretty incredible. I haven't seen the health curriculum. Are we moving forward with that? Okay. So I just want to have a concern, and that is that it's taking away from an elective when we're offering it. And I think that's a huge mistake. In fact, I so strongly about it, I think that we need to come up with a different plan. That's just my personal opinion. I don't think we should be, I think that kids are coming back from COVID, and they need to find their passion, and it's through electives that they find their passion. Every single academic area is to help them to have the skills, and then they need CTE, arts, those kind of things to find their passion and use those skills to be effective in them. But they're not going to have the opportunity to find their passion if we're taking it away from them. We're taking the opportunities away. So I'm not trying to say this to put anybody down or anything, but I've been kind of thinking about it a lot, and I wanted to share that. That's just so if there's a different way we can do that, I strongly encourage you to come up with a different way. Many schools combine health with physical education. Maybe there is a way to do that at the middle school. It might be a better way. I don't know the challenges you would have with that, but I'm just wanted to suggest it just so that we can keep the opportunities for kids. Things have changed dramatically with pathways and also the culture in our society, where kids are, when they would normally experiment in the high school, they're now experimenting in middle school and choosing pathways or careers in high school. So it's totally different than when we went to school, and we kind of have to think about the change that's going on. And so I think somehow we're going to have to be flexible. So, and then regarding our training as school board members, the only real training that we have is CSBA and Masters in Governance. So for me, I'm going to go to San Francisco. I'm going to be able to see the closed sign in front of Nordstrom's, a closed sign in front of CVS, everybody with their drugs. I went there this summer and I saw all of that. It was pretty crazy. Yeah, people running out in and out of school. But, you know, there are safe parts, there are not so safe parts. And it is true that there are safety issues in San Francisco, but around the Moscone Center, it's not much of an issue. I can tell you where all the bad areas are because I walked through them all. And yeah, don't go to the thrift store that's called Out of the Closet. It's bright pink. That's where all the drug people are, in front of that thrift store. I learned that pretty quickly. Yes, so there's some advice for you.
All right, thank you very much. And I'll just keep my report very short since most of you have said what I was thinking already. I did not know about the first part. Duly noted. The graduation promotion is absolutely wonderful. And while it is just amazing to see students at the pinnacle of their achievement here at Ramona Unified, one of my favorite parts about that is that it gives us a chance to have a little bit of time with our staff members that isn't all planned and structured and on a certain topic, and they actually get a minute maybe to tell us something that's important to them. And I won't share those comments here right now, but I definitely take those things to heart and think about it afterwards. Even though it might just be a very brief conversation, to know the things that are going well and maybe the things that need a little more of our attention is very helpful. And yes, like Maya said, school site visits, which I have not resumed post-COVID, and it's definitely time. I look forward to getting to know our new principals, and the site visits are one of the ways that we can do that. And you know, I'm thinking with foodies, and I'm like super interested in what we're doing with food and nutrition services and lab upgrades. So, you know, you can expect, Brian, that I'll probably be asking for a little tour and some conversations about how that works in our district. It's been several years since I did, so I am very interested in that. The CSBA, yeah, I understand the issues with San Francisco. I think a lot of us have some apprehensions with that. I have shared some of that up the chain already, and I will continue to do so. I had told Dan that I would see him after the meeting to hear his concerns, but I took some paper notes, so I think I got it based on your report. I'm planning to go. I'm sure I'll come back intact and maybe with a few stories.
No, with a TV set and a bottle of wine.
That did happen one time there. As did the lunatic woman who came running up to me to tell me she was in love with my husband on one visit, and yeah, it was as shocking as your face. Exhibits right now, if you know, and I just said, me too. What else do you say?
If Dawn puts a raffle ticket in, she wins. That's just how it is.
And the notorious year that we were there the same time as SantaCon.
Yeah.
I didn't know about SantaCon. Now I know too much about SantaCon.
But the weather's perfect. Look how cold it is.